Rangers Panthers game 1 Eastern Conference Finals in the NHL playoffs. We'll break down that as well as preview the Dallas Stars and Edmonton Oilers in the Western Conference playoffs, which kick off tomorrow. Can't wait to be breaking down this game with you here, Carm. The Eastern Conference Finals are here. We have a great matchup, and I think we can probably both agree the two teams that are here are very deserving of being where they are. This is going to be a great matchup, Carm. How are you? How was your day off? And what are your thoughts on Rangers and Panthers?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this, Andrew. Absent of it, of them reshuffling the way they do the playoffs and getting, let's say, Carolina and the Rangers in there in the conference finals, this is the next best thing. And I think a lot of people are thinking it is actually the best thing after what the Rangers did to Carolina. We talked about this in the preview one. This is a series that I think is going to go 6 or 7 games. And there's different ways of looking at this when you're looking at this game. And I'm going to break down some numbers, and we're probably going to go over them again when we look at the Dallas and Edmonton series. But home ice in the playoffs, Andrew, thus far has been negligible. If anything, if you're betting the away teams in the NHL playoffs this season, you depending on the VIG, I think you're up a little bit because home teams are 31 and 38 through 69 games in the playoffs. 22 and 22 in round one, 9 and 16 for home teams in the second round. It got worse in the second round, and it's because the opponents are that much better that you're playing. And you look at it, it's the Rangers have got Florida. Can Florida go into New York and beat the Rangers? Of course they can. Will they do it tonight? I'm not necessarily sure, Andrew, because if you look at the Rangers throughout the regular season, this is a team that I don't think at any point during the regular season lost 2 games in a row at home. And they did lose their last game at home in that semifinal against Carolina, and then they won it in Game 5 or Game 6 in Carolina. So you can essentially say this is their second. This would be again an opportunity for them to not lose 2 games in a row. That's tough to do in an NHL season and the playoffs, to not lose 2 consecutive games. 11 different times this season they lost a game and won the next game. And here they are again, getting a little bit of disrespect by the books because this line opened up as a pick 'em and a little bit of money coming down in Florida. It is essentially still a pick 'em. It's 115 to 105. Florida favored in this one. It'll probably just stick around this price or stick it at 110 both ways. I gotta like the Rangers off those numbers. I get it. Listen, this is a good Florida team. They know how to win on the road, and they've done so. We saw it last year as well too. In their fantastic run to the Stanley Cup Finals, they won a lot of road games. They're a team that's built to carry their form on the road and play that typical defensive road battle type of game. But it's game one, and we've seen a lot of high-scoring game ones as well too. I'm not quite sure in the total, but I'm going to give you some numbers here, guys. First round of the Eastern Conference, 21 games played, 117 goals scored for an average of 5.6 goals per game. What happened in round 2 in the Eastern Conference? 71 goals scored across 12 games, 5.92 goals scored. We've seen a lot of 2-1 games in the playoffs, but we have seen a lot of 5-4, 4-3 type of games, and that's where it all averages out. I think this is the first game of the series. I don't think there's a feeling out process. These teams know each other. They played. There's a ton of tape on these teams. Well, I think we could see some goals tonight. If any team takes a penalties, and it's the Florida Panthers who need to watch out because, like I said, during the regular season, they were the second most penalized team behind the Anaheim Ducks, and that was just by a couple minutes. The Rangers power play, Zibanejad, Kreider, Panarin, the Breadman, they're going to make them pay for it. So the key for Florida today is stay out of the box, play this game 5-on-5, and they've got a shot to win. I don't think they can stay out of the box tonight, and that's why I'm leaning to the Rangers. and that vaunted power play. That's not number one. The Edmonton Oilers lead that category, but they are still very impressive, Andrew. So no lean on the total right now. I think I think we're gonna see some goals, but I got to take the Rangers at home. 11-0 off a loss at home. Um, I can't buck that trend. I'm not sure you guys in the live chat if you can buck it or not. I can't do it.
You know, Carm, I like a lot of the points you mentioned there. And of course, the home ice advantage working for some teams throughout the playoffs. But as you mentioned, for some teams, almost value fading them during the postseason so far, backing the road team in certain situations. Of course, the Panthers picking up points in all three meetings in this matchup throughout the regular season, 2-0-1 versus the Rangers this regular season. So, of course, they'll be feeling confident. But as you mentioned, this Panthers team, most penalized team in the entire National Hockey League, and the New York Rangers, a team that, well, let's be honest, it's not just me. It's a lot of people that have called the Rangers power play merchants, the power play team. I mean, they have scored 5-on-5 goals, but they will kill you on the power play. Them and the Edmonton Oilers, two teams that you just do not want to send out there on the power play. That's for sure. I think you look at it for the Florida Panthers, you look at the schedule that they had to get to where they are here, the teams that they had to go through. I'd say they probably had a tougher schedule, Carm, than the New York Rangers did. I mean, looking at the Rangers getting the Washington Capitals, and then a Hurricanes team that was, probably struggling to score on a nightly basis, going through some goalie issues. Then you talk about a team that had to play the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Boston Bruins. To me, those games, those series were physical, and they were against teams that potentially could have made a big run compared to kind of what I saw there from the New York opponents. But having said that, I think, the word destiny is being thrown around with these teams. And I think that for the Rangers, what we saw in the third period in that series clinching win tells us all we need to know about the New York Rangers this year. Chris Kreider with the natural hat trick, Carm, to carve up the series, to just put the icing on the cake. That's how you end a series. I mean, that series easily could have been extended to 7 games. It could have gone to game 7. That's where we all thought it was going. And Chris Kreider steps up and he scores 3 straight unanswered goals to lead his team to the promised land. So I think this is going to be a really good series. I think it's going to be a great player prop series. But I would agree that I think that the physicality of the Panthers, if it's manageable, if it's dealt with in a positive way, it will help the New York Rangers as they will get rewarded with the power plays. But I also think that the Panthers are a much, much, much deeper team than what the New York Rangers have had to deal with so far. Of course, the Washington Capitals, they weren't a deep team at all. And you even look at their previous opponent of the last round. Let's be honest here. The Carolina Hurricanes, their offense wasn't looking that great. If it wasn't for Aho, if it wasn't for Svechnikov, if it wasn't for Gensel, there wasn't really much going on. Jarvis was shooting the puck a little bit. We did see Kuznetsov get a couple shots on net and 1 key goal. But when it comes down to it, Carm, this Florida Panthers team is healthy. And I saw a quote from Aaron Ekblad. He was asked, what's the difference between last year and this year? And he told the reporter, the difference is I'm not wearing a walking boot. I'm healthy. This whole team is healthy. They were limping into the conference finals, and they practically crawled into the Stanley Cup finals last year against Vegas. This team is very healthy. And when I look at player props, when I'm starting off a series, because I think a lot of times what you can do is you can look at recent form, or you can look at head-to-head matchups throughout the regular season, throughout the couple matchups throughout the regular season, dating back to last year, dating back to previous playoff positions, and taking a look at some ones here for this one. Tarasenko has gone over 1.5 shots on goal in 4 of his last 5 games head-to-head against the New York Rangers. You're getting a minus 135 price on that one. Bobrovsky has gotten at least 26 saves in 5 of his last 6 matchups against the New York Rangers. So the Rangers are certainly firing a ton of shots after against Bobrovsky. Trocheck, he has recorded an assist in 4 of his last 5 games overall. Adam Fox, he has not recorded a point in 4 of his last 5 games. So the matchups, the anytime trends here, Carm, for some of these props, that's more so where I'm looking right now for some plays here for the show. Trocheck's been great. I mean, whether it's been a point, whether it's been shots on goal, he's gone over 2.5 in 4 of his last 5 as well. I think that it's going to be one of those games, though, Carm, where it's going to be a battle of the secondary guys. Which team can have their secondary guys step up the most? We know how great Reinhart can be. We know how great some of the secondary guys can be for the Rangers. But I think that when you talk about Barkov and you talk about Verhaeghe, they need guys like almost, I think, Rodriguez to step up and some of those, Lindell, some of those third liners. And Alexis Lafreniere really stepped up in the previous series against Carolina for the Rangers. Will he continue to help them out? That's all to be determined. But those are some player props that I like here in this game. And as far as the first period is concerned, I do think New York could be leading after 1 at home here tonight.
Yeah, Andrew, I'm a couple of follow-ups to yours. You talked about the teams that they met throughout the playoffs, and we know, like Florida last year, making it to the Stanley Cup Finals, and it was a brutal run out for them. I always talked about like their injuries leading up to the Stanley Cup Finals, but they had to play in the first round the Boston Bruins. It goes 7 games. The Bruins coming off what was a unbelievable season for them where they win the President's Trophy. I think they recorded something like 130 points or something like that. And they follow up with having to play the Leafs in the second round. And then the Canes, they had a rough road to there, but that experience is what they carry into this series against Rangers. Rangers essentially had a first round bye against the Washington Capitals. I think there are other teams. The Capitals got in. They deserve to get in because they played well during the final stretch, but there are other teams that would have given the Rangers a run for their money. And then the Rangers pretty much ran over the Carolina Hurricanes, a team that I didn't expect it. I thought Carolina would win the series or would go at least 7 games. It didn't at that point, but you have to look at a couple of ways, Andrew. Do you think for Florida to win this series, I believe they're going to have to win at least 2 games in New York because I don't think splitting one of the two in New York, one of these first 2, and going home 1-1, they would love it. But I don't see them not losing 1 or 2 games. So this is one of those ones where it just feels like a zigzag type series, which is going to get us to 6 or 7 games. I made that bet that I talked about. I took the series to go 6 games. I took the series to go 7. One of them is going to lose, but as long as it goes 6 games, I am going to make even money. Plus 105 is what I ended up with, as long as it goes at least 6 games on my money, and I'm fine with that. I hear people talking about the Rangers, Andrew, and do they need another year? Lacking the experience and being a young team. Well, the biometrics is the Rangers' average team age is 28.9. The Florida Panthers is 29. They're essentially the biometrics are the same for both teams as far as average age of players on the team. Obviously, more experience with Florida having made that run last year. Do you think it comes into it at all? Because we talk about great regular season teams, and the Bruins were one last year. But you have to go back to, I think, the 2012, 2013 season, I think it was, where the Blackhawks won the President's Trophy and then won the Stanley Cup. I don't put too much stock into it, into winning the President's Trophy and not being able to win the Cup, because I think Andrew parity has come into this league over the last 10 years or so, and teams, it isn't just 5 or 6 very good teams. There are 10 to 12 very good teams. Does any of that factor into you that the Rangers could be a year away still because experience-wise they're young?
Well, I think that the Panthers, of course, had the experience from the conference finals and then going to the Stanley Cup finals. But the New York Rangers, they haven't missed a beat as far as the playoffs are concerned for years. So they've always been in the mix. They've always been right there, whether it's been the first round or second round, just not able to get over that hump. So they have experience. Maybe it's not as deep of experience as the Panthers do in recency, as far as, when they made that Stanley Cup Finals appearance last year, like Florida. But I think that there's a perfect mixture of younger and older guys. I always say it's a good recipe for a team. Whereas I'd say that for Florida, they just don't really have they probably have a handful of guys that really bring down the average age. But as far as the Rangers are concerned, they've got a really good mix. I'm talking a really good mix of players that, for me, Carm, I'm a young guy. I'll be honest. I grew up watching some of these players for the New York Rangers, right? And there's some players that I remember being drafted. As far as the Florida Panthers are concerned, when you've got some of their top players that have been around the league for a while, but the only experience they have is last year. So how much do we factor that into it? Is it 1 year good enough for experience? I think that we haven't talked too much about the coaching matchup here, but I think it's going to be a real interesting chess match between these two coaches to see what goes on, because we all know that Paul Maurice has been a great coach, but I think they got a great coach over there on the other side as well. And I'll be curious to see how the matchups are handled, especially with Tkachuk. Where does Tkachuk go? Who do they want Tkachuk going up against? Who do they want Barkov going up against? Because right now, they're not going to have a choice. They're the road team. They get to decide. The Rangers, Panarin, who do they play him against? Zibanejad, who do they put him out against? So it's all about the matchups to me here, Carm. But, people are going to come at me no matter what I say about the Rangers. And I tip my hat. They've had a phenomenal year. They seem like a team of destiny right now. But is it fair to say, Carm, is it fair to say that you're talking about experience as a whole with the playoffs? Is it fair to say that they've had the easier pathway to get here? We're talking about the Tampa Bay Lightning. I know they're not the same team as they were in the past. The Tampa Bay Lightning and the Boston Bruins, to me, those two teams are much, much more difficult than what the New York Rangers had to deal with. And I get it. People will say to me, well, of course, they're the President's Trophy winners. That's why they get this pathway. And I understand. But I just think the physical brand of hockey, like Carolina, they're not very physical. They just aren't. They make a few hits. They got a couple guys. I feel like Florida's going to surprise them a little bit with their nastiness and how they play along the boards, the north-south. I think New York wants to play east-west hockey, and Florida wants to play north-south hockey. We're going to find out which matchup wins tonight. But I'm telling you, if we do see a fast pace of this game, it could be a really, really good first game for some player props, Carm. So a few of those that I mentioned, I'll certainly be jumping on.
Yeah, I'm going to look at the player props, I think, after the show. I was doing other research, so no player props for me on this one. I'll have some for tomorrow's game that I like in the Dallas one. But Andrew, you can take either side. Anyone, guys in the chat, you can take Florida, you can take the Rangers, and it's hard to make an argument against either team. If the Rangers go on and win this series, deservedly so, they're a very good team. If Florida goes on to win this series, a very good team, deservedly so, they deserve to win. I don't think there's going to be a surprise in the series unless there's like a 4-1 or 4-0 sweep in this series, and I don't see that happening. These are two very good teams. I think, we talk about like sort of building a base, having a bottom, and the bottom is, for me in this series, is that Florida, last year's playoff run for Florida taught them a lot on how to cope with losing games, but more so how to with every win. And you saw Tkachuk was a big part of it. Matthew Tkachuk, where they win a game, he got his team off the ice into the dressing room. He's, guys, we got another game. Guys, we got another game. They did this all through the playoffs last season. What I mean? He kept them in check, and that's the thing. He's the big guy on the ice today, because Carolina, as you mentioned, other than that stupid hit on Shesterkin, where Shesterkin looked like an Olympic diver on that one as well too, but they're going to put guys and try and make life uncomfortable for Shesterkin in front of the net. It's something that the other teams did not do. he's the best goalie in this series. As good as Bobrovsky is, Shesterkin's the best goalie in this series. And you've got to make life uncomfortable for him, get bodies in front of the net. And then hopefully the refs let these teams play. I always harp on the refs, but I'm going to once again let these teams play, and we'll see how it measures out. I want to lean to Florida to win the series, but the one thing that keeps me off of having bet this series yet, Andrew, is the fact that the Rangers just don't lose a lot of games at home. We talked about 11, I think 11 during the regular season, and only one in the playoffs thus far. They just don't lose games at home. They're a very good team. We'll see what happens tonight. Florida's going to have to win at least a couple, I think, in New York. But they have the kind of team for it, because Florida can play a 6-3 game, or Florida can play a 2-1 game that's decided in overtime. And that's the mark of a very good team, that they can adapt and adjust to the flow of the game. So we'll see how that goes. Andrew, one more thing I want to talk to you about: the disrespect, if you want to call it, the Ranger fans always talk about it, that their team gets. Here are the lines for the Stanley Cup Finals. With 4 teams left, here are the series prices for the Stanley Cup Finals. If it is Florida and Dallas, Florida is favored -115 to 105 over Dallas. If it's Florida and the Oilers, Florida is -135. The Oilers are +115. If it's Dallas and the New York Rangers, Dallas is favored -130 to +110. And if it's the Edmonton Oilers with the Rangers, the Oilers are favored -120 to even money for the New York Rangers. There is no, and the Rangers are favored to win this series. There is no setup that has the Rangers, other than this series, favored to win the Stanley Cup. Andrew, um, any thoughts on that? Is that disrespect, or are they just saying Dallas and the Edmonton Oilers are that much better than the New York Rangers?
I was about to literally throw the same thing at you, Carmine. I was about to say the same thing. I think it's a bit weird that I don't know. It's maybe it's the experience, as you were talking about. Maybe it's the schedule they've had. Who knows? But what they've looked like so far this regular season, and then in the postseason, it's a little bit. It makes you shake your head, really, why you're getting this number. And I can see. Look, Carm, if you wake up and you go on social media, it seems like the New York Rangers are everybody in the world's favorite new team. Everybody likes the Rangers now. They're everyone's favorite team. And you know why? Because they have everyone's favorite word, value. And who knows what that means? Because guess what? Value means something to everybody. I mean, it's something different to everybody. But when it comes down to it, nobody wants to take the 2 favorites. Nobody wants to take the top team. And if you look at the odds, as you mentioned, it kind of makes you scratch your head on what the odds are for tonight's game, what the odds are for the full series. If you got a team favored to win the Stanley Cup against the team that's the 4th highest favorite, it makes you scratch your head. Carm, before we move on to some quick picks on the Western Conference preview, because we will, of course, be talking about the game tomorrow, so we'll just have some quick picks for that one. But I've been really saying on the show that I'm a big believer that a goaltender will win the Conn Smythe Trophy this year. You know, I think for the most part, I would probably argue that maybe even 3. I think maybe even every team besides Edmonton, it could be a goaltender winning the Conn Smythe. As far as the Rangers, you just mentioned they're +400. Shesterkin is +550. The next closest player from the team is Panarin at 30 to 1. So we're seeing Shesterkin. You know, it's very interesting too, Carm, because the liability there, we've got +400 and the 4th highest favored team, the lowest to win the Stanley Cup, the New York Rangers, the bottom of the barrel, but yet a player on their team, the goaltender, is the 2nd highest favorite to win the Conn Smythe. What does that tell you about liability?
It's Andrew. You can look at it now, and we're looking at the prices, and the top 2 favorites to win the Conn Smythe are goalies. Um, and I can understand why someone like, okay, so it's obviously Igor Shesterkin and it's Jake Ottinger, because if they win, if either one of those teams wins the cup, I'm going to get to Ottinger in a second. But if either one of those ones wins the cup, it is because they played as a team and not one standout player. If the Edmonton Oilers were to win the cup, yeah, Stuart Skinner is a big part of the team, but it's going to go to Connor McDavid. And I think the same thing holds true with Florida. The best player on the ice for them, and I know you can make an argument for Matthew Tkachuk. It's been Barkov. He's been great for them, and I think that Tkachuk even said it. Tkachuk said in one of his interviews, "This guy's the best player in the NHL." Now, I'm not going to go as far as to say he's the best player in the NHL. There's a few guys like McDavid and Nathan McKinnon out there, to name a few, but the guy's been good. We will see. Andrew, before that the Dallas game, because I took Dallas in Colorado to close out that series. Jake Ottinger was plus 750. I think there's still value at him at like plus 500, plus 550. There's a book hanging plus 600 still. I bet it at plus 750 because I thought, as much as I would love to see a Canadian team in the Stanley Cup Finals, the Edmonton Oilers against whoever, I've been saying all year, man, I'm going to stick to my guns that Dallas was the best team in the West and one of the best teams in the NHL. They are a complete team, and if they make it to the Stanley Cup Finals and win, Ottinger is getting the Conn Smythe. So, Andrew, I think you should jump on that because you're coming here this summer to watch a ball game with a bunch of us and your dad. So, what better thing to do than to have a little extra spending money, my friend?
Hey, I'm right there with you, man. Ottinger to win the Conn Smythe. I got that locked in my pocket, and to me, it's like best of both worlds at this point. Hopefully, a Canadian team makes the Cup Finals, or we cash a Conn Smythe winner, Carm. And we did talk about 15-1 a few months ago on the show with Dallas. I believe a lot of us liked the Dallas Stars here on the PuckTime crew here, so that's always good to see. Carm, we'll talk about the game tomorrow, and we want to head out here soon. But I will say this. We talked about Florida and how aggressive they're going to be to New York. I think that Edmonton might actually have more open ice in their series against Dallas than they did against Vancouver. I don't really see Dallas as a physical team. I see a few guys on the team that like to make hits, right? But I don't see a lot of their guys that like to throw their body around. So I think that McDavid and Draisaitl and those guys might actually have more open ice. Curious to see how that goes as far as the total is concerned in that. But nonetheless, Carm, we're seeing minus 125 series price for the Dallas Stars, plus 105, the take back here. So many props worthy of looking at. You can look at Dallas minus 1.5 games, plus 170. Edmonton, minus 1.5 games, plus 170. You can get the plus 1.5. You can get exact series score. Edmonton 4-2 plus 450. Edmonton 4-3 plus 550. Stars minus 2.5 games even is a big price there as plus 340. There's so much to look at, but as far as props, as far as the series is concerned, Carm, what sticks out to you?
The Oilers, Andrew, are going to, first of all, the Oilers are going to, their fate in this thing is the guys are going to score. They got good players on their team, Andrew, and they can play low scoring games as they proved in the last couple. They pretty much shut down Vancouver. I think Vancouver in game 6 had like 15 shots on goal, and it wasn't until they woke up in the third period, Vancouver, that is, and started firing some pucks on net through the second period. They had like 14 or 15 or 16 shots on goal. You're not going to win many games in the NHL if you're allowing goals, but only getting about 15 shots on goal a game. But the segue into this one, what I'm trying to say is the Oilers are going to get theirs, as are the Stars. This is going to come down to goaltending. They need Stuart Skinner to play the way he played the last couple of games. They sat him for a couple of games. They put Calvin Pickard in there. They brought him back, and he was the difference in games 6 and 7 for the Oilers. He made some big saves when he needed to. There's nothing worse for a team that when you're playing well, when your goalie lets in a bad one, it deflates you, and that's been the story for the Edmonton Oilers in playoff series the last few years is a goaltending, letting them down in the playoffs. Can Stuart Skinner be the one? Nobody's talking about him. And if they are, there's not a lot of people talking about him, but he could be the difference for them in this series. We know that the Oilers can outscore the Dallas Stars. Can they keep the puck out of the net? That's the big thing. Dallas, the series price is about where it should be. You look at Dallas, and they haven't been solid at home in the playoffs. They're 3-4 in 7 games in the playoffs. And we saw they lost the first 2 games at home against the Vegas Golden Knights. They lost 2 of 4 games at home against the Avalanche. So that home ice, we talked about the home ice. I talked about it, 31-38 in the playoffs, 9-16 in the second round. I don't think it means as much, but the Stars can win on the road. The thing here is, if you're going to bet this series price, Andrew, you have to decide who you like in game 1 before you make your decision. If you like the Dallas Stars to win game 1, then you got to bet the Dallas Stars because that series price is going to go from like -125 to about -180 after they win game 1. If you like the Edmonton Oilers in this in game 1, but you think Dallas is going to win the series, then you wait to bet it because you're going to get if Dallas wins the series, and you can like a team in game 1 and like a completely opposite team to win the series. It makes perfect sense. It happens each and every year in the playoffs. If you like Dallas to win the series, but you don't like game 1, then I say you sit on it. If the Oilers win game 1, you know the Stars are going to come back. If that's your opinion, and you're going to get the Stars at plus money. Oilers win game 1, you're going to get the Stars at about plus 140-ish. Would you say, Andrew, to win the series?
I'd agree with that. I'd agree. And you're so right, Carl. I mean, the team that wins the first game, that doesn't mean they're going to win the series. That's for sure. So it's about picking which team you think is going to come out. And if you do like, let's say you do like the Stars to win the series, but you think Edmonton could get off to a hot start, then you get that better price, or vice versa. You still get a better price on Edmonton. Yeah. It's all about playing the waiting game. And Carm, a lot of people, they actually bet more series prices within the series than actually pre-flop.
Yeah. You've been doing it. Listen, you've been doing it. I know guys like, I think Brian Leonard, especially last year he did it, and with success as well too. But that's the thing is the price is at like minus, like I think you said, -125 plus 105. If your thought is that this series is going to go 6 or 7 games, first off, and then your thought is that they could very well head to Edmonton with this series tied at 1. The Dallas Stars will not be the favorite in the series if this series is tied at 1. So you're going to get plus money on Dallas. So why lay $1.25 juice? Just bet it in series. And if for some reason the Dallas Stars win both games 1 and game 2, then it's a no play. You just don't take it. You don't have to play a series price. Pre-flop, as you call it. I call it pre-series or pre-game 1 or within the series. Always look for sort of those plus money opportunities, or if your team was a bigger favorite and they lose game 1, you can get a much better price on them in game 2. That's what I did with the Boston Bruins Florida series, where it went from 190 to like 110 for Florida. So I prefer getting them at -110 than laying 190. So it works out in the end.
Carm, there's one that sticks out to me, and just the only one I'll mention here. And it's Leon Draisaitl to lead the series in goals at plus 450. We all know he's the shoot first guy. He's the shooter. McDavid, he's been great in the playoffs, but less points, 21 compared to the 24 for Draisaitl. But Leon just has been an extraordinary playoff guy. And the thing with him, scoring goals in all types of different ways, 5-on-5, power play goals, in tight, from far away. But, you got Hyman, Draisaitl, Johnston, McDavid, Robertson, Hintz, Sagan, and Ben. So what's crazy is there's a couple Oilers players and then just a handful of Stars players in that list. But, Carm, I'll read something out to you. These are the points, not the goals, but the points here as far as the playoffs are concerned. This is for everybody and the playoff leaders. Leon, Connor, Evan Bouchard, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. Then you've got Makar, Zibanejad, Trocheck, McKinnon, Rantanen, Tkachuk. There's Hyman. And then all the way down to number 11 is a defenseman for the Stars, Miro Heiskanen. And then it takes all the way until number 14 out of every skater that's played in the playoffs so far to get to Jason Robertson as far as his points are concerned. All we keep hearing from every podcast, every TV network, the Stars are a deep team. The Stars are a deep team. The Stars are a deep team. Well, we know the Edmonton Oilers, they pretty much have a bottom six, that's their shutdown lines, and the top six are the scoring lines. So you're going to give me plus 450 on one guy to score the most goals for Edmonton. And I think that as far as the Dallas Stars, their scoring is very, very distributed. It's very spread out throughout their lineup. I think a plus 450 price is a really, really good number there on Draisaitl to lead the series in goals, Carm. So we'll touch on much more tomorrow as we break down game one of the Western Conference Finals. Maybe I'll have some more futures to look at. We already did talk about, guys, if you do like the Dallas Stars to win the Stanley Cup and you have not jumped in yet, you can certainly go ahead and look at taking Jake Ottinger. We did mention a few weeks ago about spreading things out on McDavid and Hyman and Draisaitl. You kind of missed the boat on those guys, I would say. But, hey, you're still getting a pretty good price on the Oilers in general. But, yeah. Carm, any closing thoughts? And if not, what do you have going today at WagerTalk.com?
Andrew, I'm going to look at it. Just one quick ad on the Dallas Stars. And you tend to overlook it because you just look at, they won the series against Vegas, defending Stanley Cup champions, and they win the series against Colorado, where a lot of teams were pegging to make it to the Stanley Cup finals. I wasn't necessarily one of those ones because there's too many good teams in the Western Conference. But the one thing that stands out in the Colorado series is they went into Colorado and beat Colorado 3 times. They were a perfect 3-0, and they never allowed more than a goal in any of those 3 games. The Avalanche at home only scoring 3 goals in 3 playoff games. And you can talk about this player might have been missing or that player might have been missing. It's a lot of teams it's next man up, Andrew. You know that. We see it. And it just wasn't there for the Avalanche. But maybe you look at it a different way and just say Dallas was that much better that they completely shut them down. So if they could do that to Colorado, in Colorado, we'll see what they can do against Edmonton, because Edmonton, I think, has more scoring, a lot more scoring than Colorado does, and is a better offensive team than they are. We'll see where goaltending leads us in this series. As far as, Andrew, what I have up today at Wager Talk, I'm going to have my NHL card up soon. I'm going to be on Wager Talk today. I'm going to talk about the Rangers game. I'm going to have a play on that game, so that I didn't talk about here. And then I'm going to talk about the Europa League final today. That goes at 3:00. Italian side, Atalanta playing against Bayer Leverkusen. I'm going to have a client play up, which I will also give out on Wager Talk today. It's the Prez's birthday, guys, today, so tune in to that one. I'm going to send it back to you, Andrew. I want to wish you best of luck because I know you have a big play up in the NHL tonight. Tell us about it and take us home.
5% play tonight, Carm. Game 1, Eastern Conference Finals. I can't wait. I've had my eye on this play, and I've been ready for it here. Game 1 of this matchup, Rangers and Panthers. You guys can take advantage of that play over at wt.buzz/AM, as you see on your screen, or you can use the promo code AM30day to get a 30-day all-access package for $199. You're going to get every single play I release, NHL, NBA, MLB, and of course, the CFL is just around the corner. So, guys, very, very strong play for me tonight in the NHL. Join me. And if you would like a promo code for that bet, I'm sure you can reach out to customer service, find something for the 3-day, 7-day, or something if you're not interested in the 30-day code. But, guys, I cannot wait for tonight's game. And make sure you check out Carmine, of course, at wt.buzz/CB. Best of luck tonight, guys. Enjoy the games. We'll see you tomorrow right here on Puck Time.